Welcome to the Spirited Discussions podcast, the show where we discuss all things Spirit Island. I'm your host, Thomas, and today I'm joined by a dedicated Spirit Island content creator, Ryan Lackie. Today we'll be verbally meandering about plenty of topics from our first games to chess and even Frisbee. To start us off, Ryan, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan Lackie. I play Spirit Island. I put videos on YouTube, and I think that's probably, my claim to fame is through that YouTube presence.
Simple and clean. I like it. How long have you been playing the game?
Oh gosh, I think I've been playing the game for about 5 years. I know that it was after the release of Jagged Earth, but I can't particularly tell you the exact moment I started playing, but I can tell you that it was on the Handelabra Steam version, not physical. And which is funny because I really have no clue how I started playing or really when I started playing. Just that I know that Jagged Earth had been recently released. But I played the game a lot on Steam before I ever purchased the game and played it physically.
That's super interesting. I recently held a poll on the Discord, how did you first get into the game? And overwhelmingly, people got into it through the physical version. So to hear that you got it through the digital one is pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I must have seen something on Reddit or who knows what. I mean, because, yeah, it must have been through some form of social media because ever since that, I've been playing the game so much. I've been the Spirit Island guy in my local board gaming community. And so people just like, oh, I want to learn this game. Go ask Ryan. He'll teach you. So no clue where it came to me from.
Did playing the digital version make learning the physical version like very easy? Or do you feel like it had to relearn it going to the physical space?
No, it definitely made it a lot easier because you can't, I think when I've taught the game so many times, there's a lot of rules overhead, right? And I think really this is one of those games that you have to get taught by someone. It's really hard to teach yourself just because there's the mental load of like what the other players are doing, the other players being the adversaries. It's hard enough to keep track of what your own spirit is doing, but being required to also remember what the adversaries are doing just creates like this big, heavy mental problem. And, of course, as you know, when you play the game, you kind of play out like half of your turn. You think about what the invaders are going to do, and you kind of mentally map that out, and then you continue with the rest of your turn. When you teach a new player, you just kind of let them do bad plays and make mistakes, and you go like, hey, guess what, sucker? That's not going to work out too good for you. And that's part of the learning experience. So in a way, I think that was the benefit of playing digitally, is because I would just do my inputs and then the computer would take care of all of the adversary actions. And then you just roll with it. And I think also because it's so easy to just play another round on digital, you just click one little button, like try again.
Shuffles everything, you're going.
Yeah. Especially because just ironic considering I don't play the Spirit ever these days, but my first love was Vital Strength of the Earth. And that was the first Spirit I would just play incessantly. And, Vital Strength of the Earth has some power level problems, is the nice way to put it. And so I did a whole lot of try again, until finally I could start winning games and start figuring out how to actually play the Spirit and play the game, writ large. But I think it would just be a lot harder to do that in the physical version because after a loss, you have to like shuffle this deck, shuffle that deck, shuffle this deck, shuffle that deck. And just all that physical labor would just make you less inspired to try again.
Vital Strength of the Earth was the very first Spirit that I ever played. It's like a very memorable moment because you described you need someone to teach you the game, and I felt that. I had my nose in the rulebook, and I was like, this is too much, I don't understand what's going on, and I did that time and time and time again until I finally sat down with my brother and said, we're just going to play with our nose in the rulebook, and it's going to suck. Mm-hmm. And I played Vital Strength, he played Lightning Swift Strike, and it was super fun.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. And to be clear, I think the rulebook is actually written quite well. It's just that, there's a lot of rules.
Yeah. It's very good to look up rules, but reading it from beginning to end isn't as good at learning the game as some other rulebooks that I've read. But knowing the game and looking up any information is incredibly easy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree with you.
And I think that rulebooks have two different jobs that they're trying to accomplish. And the first one is to teach you the game. The other one is to be a reference to the game. It's very hard to do both.
Have you ever played the game Root?
I have, yes.
So it just comes with two rule books. One of them is how do you play, and the other is just called the Law of Root, which is like a legal textbook. You just open it up and you just find the answer to your question. And I think that's a pretty clever way to do it. One of the things I like in that is that they're like, look, we know you're not going to know what you're doing, so this is exactly what you're going to do on turn 1. This is exactly what you're going to do on turn 2. And you just, the rulebook just kind of lets you play like the back half of a game, giving you a suboptimal opening for every single player. And then you get to like play it out from there. I think that's a very clever solution to that problem because rulebooks are notoriously hard to write.
Fantasy Flight Games does that with basically all of their games where they have a learn to play. And they kind of have like a step-by-step, do this and then this, and it's really simple. You could play the game from here. And then they have a pretty in-depth rules book that is the rest of the rules. And you're like, oh, I need to look this up. And you're like, oh, okay, this is under page 17, subsection C.
Legal clause 3, right?
Oh, okay, that's how it works. I just want to know how I opened the door. I get it now.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually funny, bringing this full circle. Have you played the tutorial on the Steam game?
I have, yes.
So it kind of does the same thing, where it has you play River, and then it has you do an opening that looks really good on paper, but after you gain a lot of experience, it's it makes you do a G2 top bottom opening. So you become a 2/2 spirit on your first turn. And, if you've played the game a while, then you would know that the most popular opening is to go bot, and then you're a 1/2 spirit for that first turn. Go to the 3 reclaim, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the game gives you a less optimal opening, which means that, as you learn and you get better at the game, there is improvement upon the tutorial for your actual gameplay. And then after a few turns, they just go like, hey, we've taught you how to do things. Go the rest of the way. And I think that is fantastic. One of the other things that the rulebook does too, tutorial does as well, is they actually, they play like a video of a game where they say like, here's how the game plays as if you didn't exist. And they put up, some explore, build, ravage action. Then you just get blighted out. And then they're like, wow, doesn't that suck? You better do something about that.
I actually take that tip from the video game and implement it into how I teach the game. And I say, what does this look like if we're not doing anything? And we go through the first 3 turns and you lose pretty quickly. I think that's a super easy thing to extract from learning from the video game. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. It's very slick. I like it a lot.
It's a really intelligent piece of design to be able to get your players to be able to play the game as quickly as possible, and showing them how to succeed and what failure looks like is pretty important.
Mm-hmm. Like if you've ever, I'm sure you've played games with your parents, definitely like the older generation plays a lot of games, like Rummy, Cribbage, things like that. And they're just like, you know what, let's just play around and we'll just see what happens. There is no like playing around in Spirit Island, right? Because your turn 1 completely changes your turn 2, completely changes your turn 3. And so, I mean, to a certain degree, you always are going to get to a certain point where you have to stop explaining rules. Like, there's no point in explaining like the nuances of isolate,
It'll come up when it comes up.
At a certain point, you just gotta wing it and go. And definitely the shorter time that elapses before you just wing it and go, I think is good. I've played a ton of board games. I have a very long history of playing board games, and even my eyes will glaze over at a certain point and just be like,
we just gotta go.
You know what, man? I think I'm like 70% of the way there. Like, I'm okay with losing. I'm okay with getting my clock clean this game, but I'd like to, start playing. Let's just start doing things.
That anecdote of playing with your parents, that resonates with me. I'll say, all right, so this is how you win the game, and the objective is to do this. And my mom's like, all right, time to start playing. Like, you don't know anything.
Yep. Oh man. Or like, my mom's like, you know what? I'm good. And then after we're like a little bit into a game with the rest of the family, she's like, okay, guys, deal me in. It's like, okay, well, you know what? We'll just start you off at 10 points or something. We'll just kind of just give you like a halfway game state, because playing games with your family is way more important than being like a rules technocrat, you know, especially, you know, me, I've lived in a different state from my parents. You know, I moved out 10 years ago. And so getting to come home for Thanksgiving, Christmas, what have you, it's, spending time with each other is so much more important than, you know, trying to be like super nuanced and detailed about the rules.
Yeah. I think the best course to play with your family is just play games that your family like. My sister loves to play Dixit, so we pull out Dixit. No reason to pull out Spirit Island.
Hey guys, you want to just, you know, enjoy our time together by just melting your brains?
That's what I would love, but I'm here for the people.
Right? Oh, man.
What got you into making videos about the game?
So I started making videos maybe some 3 years ago, and really it was because there was a gap in the market. And I don't want to say market like there's any kind of a profit motive here, but so much in the, like, I like watching YouTube videos for any game that I want to play. And there was, at the time that I started, I can only think of 3 content creators. There was Kayla North, who's still active, but at the time he hadn't uploaded a video in like 6 months, a year. I can't remember the exact details. I think by that point he had all of his basic guides for the basic spirits, but there wasn't a heck of a lot beyond that. There was this guy who I haven't seen him post anything in a super long time, Penguin, but his videos were predominantly just like silent gameplays. But it wasn't actually silent. It would be really funny. You'd be watching him and you're just kind of like chilling, and all of a sudden he's like, you just hear like, you're like, oh my gosh, what was that? It's just like someone's breathing behind me. And so yeah, it was like super chill and mellow. And then there was a third guy called Peasant. It was like Peasant's Spirit Island Paradise or something like that. And he would do the kind of videos that I currently do, right? Where you're doing gameplay and you're talking through, I'm going to do this thing because I want to do this. And here's the justification for this decision. And he kind of started his channel at like a difficulty 3, difficulty 4, worked his way all the way up to difficulty 10, you know, like those level 6 adversaries. And it was really cool, like, cause as I was learning the game, to also watch a YouTuber kind of grow up with the game as well. And then he just eventually just started crushing 6s. I've never spoken to this person before, but at some point he just stopped posting videos. And then I noticed like a month or 2 later, he just deleted his channel altogether and deleted all the videos. So all of a sudden there was just no talk through commentary videos of level 6 gameplay. And so I decided like, hey, let's just try it. You know, I'm in a competition with nobody, you know, like I can't be, well, I will be the worst at it, but I'll also be the best. And
yeah, whenever you say market, you just mean like supply and demand. You can supply it, and you're also the one that's demanding it. You want this sort of thing to exist, so might as well be the one.
Yes, I think that's perfect. That's exactly the way that I've always envisioned the channel. Is I want to create the thing that I would want to watch. I only make content that I'm interested in. And so if my viewers are begging me to play a spirit that I just hate or play against Russia, which I also hate, you have to go somewhere else. And I have no qualms about that, because the way that I see it, even if you're like monetized, things like that, there's an upper limit to how much money that you can make. I don't think it's ever possible to like go full-time YouTube. I don't even know the numbers, but I feel like you would need to have like 20,000 or more subscribers. The moment that I'm not having fun doing it, the moment that I'm not enjoying it, there's no motivation to keep going. And I feel like as a viewer, you don't want to watch someone suffer on screen. You're going to be like, oh gosh, this is awkward.
Maybe some viewers.
Maybe some viewers, sure. But you'll just feel like guilty. You're like, oh man, I feel like I'm just coaxing this bad behavior on, and I don't want to put that on my soul.
Some of your more recent content has been more design focused. Has this been like a an intentional shift.
Yes, absolutely. Kind of keeping with the thread of I make the content that I like to consume. Have you seen this YouTuber, Big Posty?
No, I'm not familiar.
This dude's like wicked esoteric, like way, like goes beyond like what I could even do, but he, his channel kind of started like as a very generic board game channel, and you know, like, hey, here's a review of this game, whatever, and then he just did this pivot, and now all of his videos are like super like big brain, like meta analysis of board gaming theory. It's all just like bigger, broader lines of thinking, and I just love that kind of content, you know, because so much of board gaming isn't playing the game itself, but it's thinking about playing the game. You know, you're at work and you're like, man, I hate sending emails. I sure can't wait to go home and, you know, play Spirit Island. You're thinking about like this matchup you want to approach, and you're like, oh man, you know, what if I did like a top track opener with this spirit? That would be pretty sick. Maybe that's the reason why we like watching other people play games, is because we can't in that moment play the game ourselves. But there's also just things that we're thinking about, like, oh, hey, you know, maybe if I take this approach, it'll give me an advantage for X, Y, or Z reason. And like an entirely separate parallel thing is that by forcing myself to make these kinds of videos, I also make myself think through these ideas, because I've got a lot of like half-baked ideas, a lot of things that I'm not too sure about. And until you take the time to try and articulate it to someone else and explain it to someone else, you're not really able to understand it yourself. And so both just because I like thinking about board games and I like thinking about the game, as opposed to just like memorizing this is the exact build path that you must do in this matchup for the best results. I think that's a boring way to play. But also, I have this half-baked idea, and I need to find a way to make it into at least 3/4 baked before I'm willing to put it out into the world. But at the same time, I don't feel pressure to have a fully complete, fully developed idea, because other people are probably thinking similar things, but variations. And you get yourself to a certain point where in order to further develop an idea, you just need someone else to disagree with you and to provide that pushback and to say like, well, what about X, Y, and Z? You know, in one of my recent videos, I said a few things about Raging Storm, where I was like, man, I love this card for all these different reasons. And then someone put like a 5-paragraph response of just like, dude, this card sucks, you know? And he just went through all these reasons, and, you know, super respectful, to be clear, like, but this is the kind of engagement that's great, is because, you know, there's a little bit of back and forth. I've presented an idea, now they present an idea, and I can respond to that idea and force myself to be sharper and more thorough and more clear, and then we're all better off for it.
Wow. There's a lot to dissect there. So I found you actually because of your most recent like shifting of video ideas to talk about design space. I find gameplay videos kind of boring for myself, but I really love these discussions where you have these half-baked 80% of the way there ideas, and you just need to discuss it. It needs to bounce off of someone else to be able to get these ideas to be complete. Being able to listen to these ideas, read the comments, advance your own ideas, and come to a conclusion on your own not on your own, of your own with someone else's assistance, is something that I love about all games. Just this ongoing discussion that's everywhere, and how these topics relate from one game to another. Whenever you start peeling back the onion, you see that it's all the same. But different, and that's what we love different games for. I will definitely have to look up this content creator that you are referencing to, because I've never heard of them, and they sound so entertaining to me.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. He's a really fun and interesting guy. Yeah, I mean, I do play a ton of different board games. Actually, one of my big addictions right now is Arc Nova. I think I'm in 17 different asynchronous games on Board Game Arena right now for just that game. Like, it's consumes a lot of my time, you know, when I'm taking a break at work.
That's wild.
There's a core logic to a lot of different games. You know, like every game has its own underlying economy, and part of learning a game is trying to figure out what that economy is and how to leverage it to gain an advantage. And just having the exercise of thinking through those kinds of things will make you better at every game, including Spirit Island, right? There's a lot, every spirit can almost be its own individual board game, right? Where, you might have some like really defensive spirit, which you could make analogous to like a tower defense, where, you've got the invaders coming at you and you just gotta, as you build and grow your spirit, keep yourself alive good enough until you can finally like go big and over the top. And then other spirits, like your wildfire types, your sharp fangs types, you gotta play a completely different game. You just gotta go on the offensive. And, like a roots versus a wildfire have completely different internal economies, even though it is the same game. And of course, this is the reason why we enjoy Spirit Island so much, because it's so many different games in the same box. But being able to, through experience of playing many different board games, will help you digest all these different spirits better and more quickly.
Something that Spirit Island does, and I think that great games do this very well, is hide and obfuscate what their economy actually is. And it's so interesting because Spirit Island, right in front of you, screams at you what their economy is. You have this many card plays per turn, this much energy per turn. You can push this button and get more energy. It's yelling at you what your economy is. And yet it hides it so well that you could play the game for dozens of hours and not really click that this is the same thing as any other economy in like a heavy Euro sort of game. It's really impressive to me how well they've hidden that in the background. Or like fear is points. Once you think of it that way, you're like, oh, this card gets me 3 points. That's a good thing. If my goal is to get 50x points, this is a step in the right direction. But whenever you're new to the game, you might approach this and say it doesn't do anything because it doesn't affect the board. There's so many layers and levers that the game is putting on in front of the mechanisms to hide what's going on. Really impressive.
Mm-hmm. So I think one of the types of economies that does exist in this game that's also like really, really obfuscated, like you were saying, is the concept of time, where you have to do things in X number of turns, but it takes a long time to feel that. Ironically, we both started with Vital Strength of the Earth, and that's probably his number one loss condition, is just decking out.
Yeah.
Because you're so good at making nothing happen, and if something bad does happen, he comes with built-in blight removal. He has built-in defense from multiple different sources. You can just skip lands. Like, you could just make the game go on for infinite amount of time. And then, the base Vital Strength of the Earth experience is that, you neutralize the invaders through all of stage 1, through most of stage 2, and then you just kind of get overrun. And it's because you're getting run over by this, subtle economy that is hard to quantify because it doesn't exist in a numeric form in the game. It's just kind of a thing you have to feel and figure out. One of those other weaknesses of the spirit is the inability to draft a lot of cards very easily. And that is a whole economy that is hard to feel, because you feel like, I've got all these cards, and, the cards that I do have are quite impactful, skipping everything that's going on, completely neutralizing the invaders. That feels really good. Where blight equals bad, where the more blight I take, the worse things are. But, as you play the game more, you develop more experience, you come to realize that, maybe these trade-offs are okay. And that's really cool, right? Getting to learn the secrets of how the game works.
Yeah. Even there's like an economy of your targeting capability. You could sacrifice how many lanes you could target to be able to gain all of these cards as Vital Strength, but you understand very quickly that this isn't going to net you in the long run, but you need to get new cards, so where are you getting your strength from? You have to do one or the other, and you have to do both. The game is pushing you and tugging you in different directions. Absolutely love that. How long did you play the game before you started making content for it?
Oh man, when did I start making content? 3 years ago? So I guess that would be 2 years. Actually where I did a lot of my pre-YouTube gaming is I traveled for work during COVID. I had to do a lot of travel for work. And so I wound up just working in another town that was like 3 hours from home. It didn't make sense to commute. And so, just got a place out there on my own for a little bit. And there was this board game store that had a big open play area. You could just show up, just hop on a table, play board games anytime you want. And I became quite well known there because after work every day, I would just roll up to the store, by this point I had physical Spirit Island. I would just take out my Spirit Island copy and I would just rock solo games for like 3 hours every single day. That's kind of all my life was for a while, was go to work. It was a 7 days a week job. So go to work, play Spirit Island, grab dinner, go to bed, do it all the next day. Rinse and repeat. There was some breakup. I did, there was also a Frisbee group that played once a week. I do love playing Ultimate Frisbee. It's my profile picture for a reason. Is a Disc Star Frisbee. Ultra Star, by Discraft. I do know my words. I'm sorry.
Gotta be particular here.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we don't play with those pulsars. That's, MLU, that's old fashioned.
Is there a large overlap between disc golf or Frisbee and Spirit Island players?
Actually, my Frisbee team has a ton of board gamers in it, and we have a lot of, and it's also like the most core players to Frisbee on this team. Like, you got like those guys that are more dedicated and less dedicated. It just so happens that all of the most dedicated guys on my Frisbee team are also the ones that all love to play board games. So I spend way too much time with these dudes because we'll be, doing practice twice a week. We'll do some pickup every week. We'll travel for tournaments, which will take us out for a couple days, every 4 or 6 weeks. And then we'll also get together and like play Twilight Imperium or play Spirit Island or, other just like big board games, the occasional like gaming till 2 a.m.
Wow. I am
kind
jealous.
of events. It's a pretty sweet setup. I feel quite lucky.
Do you plan on making content that's not Spirit Island, or are you just too deep into the Spirit Island hole?
I feel like I did make one video for Arc Nova a while ago. As I was, pretty early into playing digitally, I randomly got matched up against the #1 ranked player in the world. And so I made a video about just me getting absolutely shellacked and just kind of walking through and being like, I made a mistake here. And I think that got like 3 views. So that put some cold water on that idea pretty quick.
It's a little demoralizing, yeah. Even though you're doing this for yourself, you still want it to be useful, I guess? I don't know the right word.
Yeah. I think people, okay. I don't want to speak for too many people, but I know for myself, I want to watch someone do something competently. And I think there's kind of like 3 stages, right? You got like your beginner level where you're just like barely trying to play the game at all. Then you get to like this intermediate level where you can beat all your friends, but that's mostly because they don't understand like the basic underlying economy of the game. And then you get to the expert level, and people love watching those expert level players. That intermediate level, as soon as you know a thing or two about the game, you watch like an intermediate player and you're like, okay, well, he could have done that. Okay, well, he could have done that. But when you watch an expert person, then when you disagree with the person, you're like, okay, well, clearly I'm wrong and I need to make a change. And you feel like you're learning. But if you're consciously aware that you're watching someone who is not an absolute expert, you're like more willing to disagree. And not that I am scared of people disagreeing with me. I mean, gosh, that's happens all the time and I'm totally fine with it. But I feel just less confident in myself putting out content, because I'm not a top player for Arc Nova. I just really enjoy the game. I might be able to beat my friends, but I can't hang with the top players in the world. Far from it. Thankfully, specifically for Arc Nova, there are a couple content creators that are all in like the top 5 in the world. And so if you do want to watch them, you can check out like No Wonders or J-Dance. Those are 2 of the best players. But so like if you're watching those guys, like, why would you watch me? Right? You just watch me and be like, yeah, this guy really like, he wants to play like 2 cards that add up to like a cost of 15 and he has $14. I don't think that's going to work out too well.
The math ain't mathin'. The World Series of Board Games happened recently, and I was listening to that, watching some games. It was commentated, and it was so interesting because the plays that these very good players would do and what the commentator would do frequently didn't match up. And the commentator was, more often than not, like the previous year's world champion. And so even at this highest level of play, there's still so much disagreement about what a good play looks like.
And that's fantastic. As long as people are respectful, I think disagreement is a great thing. I mean, as soon as you have a solved game, I mean, gosh, there's no world championships for tic-tac-toe, is there?
Yeah.
Like, that game's over on turn one. That's, I make a move, you make a move, and it's either a stalemate or I win. Like, the game's just over.
Known, yeah.
Yeah, completely solved. So the fact that at the top level, people still can't agree, I think that's great. It's kind of like chess. Where you'll just get like some grandmasters just chit-chatting, being like, well, what if you did this, and they got nothing to do for like half an hour before the next turn is played, so they're just exploring lines, and then Magnus Carlsen will do just something else that they didn't consider, and they're like, okay!
That's the move! We figured it out!
That's the move!
Interestingly, checkers is pedantically a solved game, and yet there are still checkers tournaments that are played at a very high level. Even though it's solved, humans just can't keep up with it. So
fascinating.
Very interesting.
That is interesting. I don't follow checkers at all. I used to play a lot of chess. Chess was like my original board game. When I was a wee young lad, I was going to chess tournaments at like 3rd grade, 4th grade. I didn't have like soccer trophies on the walls. I had like chess trophies, wow. But which looking back at was like really funny, when I was moving out and I had to like clean up some of my stuff, and turns out there was a lot of tournaments held at Burger King. And so I had like Burger King trophies on the wall for chess. I don't know. It just seems so odd to me. But, the funny thing with chess is that back in the day, the strategy to get better was just to memorize more.
Yeah.
And to be more and more of a perfect and precise player. But nowadays, because of all these supercomputers, people can learn lines that are just like way too long. And so now what they're doing at the top level is they're playing out a few like solved moves and then just playing like one terrible move just to completely knock the other guy off their prep. Or they might play like the 5th best move in a position as opposed to what is mathematically considered the best. Because even though like Stockfish might have solved the game, it is... Well, okay, if we solve the game and we know that, like, because of this position, like, white is guaranteed to win, black absolutely has to do something different. Or vice versa, right? If it's going to be a stalemate, stalemate generally advantages to black. White has to just do something weird and hope that the other guy just doesn't react appropriately. And then just by being weird, you gain an advantage. Very funny from a macro level.
Yeah, chess is so interesting because the mid-game is like a fantastic game. Very positional, tactical, you've got a lot of great decisions, and you can really see the skill come through because nobody's seen most positions in the game. And so if you're given any random position, the better player will probably come out. But given infinite amount of prep and both people are doing that, well, you already know the answer. And so you have to break that in some way. I think that's so interesting in game design is how do you break that sort of prep, and a lot of games just do it in card-driven formats or dice, things like that. So in Spirit Island we have the event deck, and you might be able to see, I have a win in 6 turns without the event deck, but the event deck creates that weird turn, and now you have to accommodate that.
Yeah, this is a Spirit Island podcast, isn't it? Maybe we should talk about Spirit Island. But what I was going to say is, on the Spirit Island side is, have you ever seen those challenges that people do where there's like a set seed and then everyone just plays the same seed?
Yeah, I think those are super cool.
Yeah, so there was one that I did. I put up my submission on my channel. It was a year and change ago, but I think it was like Sweden and Keeper solo, Sweden 6, Keeper, the Forbidden Wilds. And just like turn 1, I think, I can't remember which board it was, but it's one of those ones where you have a starting presence in the same land as a Dahan, right? And so as Keeper, your first turn is forced. you have only one land that you can add a presence, and then you're forced to push Dahan, right? So, just because of that special rule, the first like 4 or 5 people that I looked at all did different. Something different. I do recall that there was 2 Dahan in that starting land, and some people moved them together. Some people split them up. And just like that little tiny micro decision just created this whole snowball of effect, because I just recall the way that I played things out. I was moving Dahan into the invaders. Other people were moving Dahan away because of Sweden. You want to try and protect them from escalation. My line of thinking was a little bit different, and I just so happened to draft a defend card that I was able to utilize when other people weren't. And so then I'm drafting defend, and then because they didn't set up their Dahan, they were drafting other cards. And so literally from turn 1 out, our entire gameplay split just because of the way that we wanted to push our Dahan in like the turn 1 growth phase. That there was this massive downstream effect. It was fascinating.
So I'd mentioned the World Series board games a little bit ago, and I had wished that there was a cooperative seeded game like Spirit Island or Pandemic, where every game is seeded, so they're all the same, and yet the small decisions early cascade into crazy complicated decisions later. I find that whenever you're looking at one of those games, you'll say this is a simple solution, this is what you do X, Y, Z, but it's only simple because you did all these other not simple things to have gotten there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also a certain level of risk assessment too, where like, if I'm like, I'm willing to take this risk. And so because of that, this other decision is just so obvious to me, right? Whereas another person's like, well, I'm not willing to take on this risk. And so therefore this play is not so obvious to me because I value taking a blight in this land so much higher than you do, so therefore I would prefer to change my line of play in order to prevent this blight from coming down. And I mean, who's to say who's better and who's not better? As long as you both end up with a win, frankly, that's all I care about. I know there's like different ways you can like optimize for taking more blight, less blight. You could, optimize for maximum blight taken. But like you would, try and maximize for like minimum blight taken, most Dahan on the island, unwilling to sacrifice Dahan, like fewest destroyed presence. You could optimize for
fastest game,
fastest game, right? Like fewest number of turns. There's a lot of different things you could optimize for. You could try and force like a Terror level 2 victory, which would mean a lot of like pushing and like denying builds, which inherently means producing less fear because there's just less plastic that produces fear. Different ways that you could approach based on your personal biases, personal preferences, and it really comes down to like your experience and what kind of things has and has not worked for you.
Whenever I'm playing the game, my goal is just like do not losing actions, I feel like, where I'm just growing up my ability to interact with the invaders at all, and I'm trying to not lose. And then there's a switch at some point where I try to win, and whenever I flip that switch, I go from not get blight to win as quickly as possible. Whenever you're optimizing things, the question in my mind is, when do you start this optimization? And if you're trying to optimize the lowest amount of blight at all costs, do you delay winning to remove more blight? Or if you're trying to win as fast as possible, do you accept as much blight and just live on the life's edge? I think those are interesting questions.
That's fascinating because I almost do the opposite where my mental modality is to try and win as fast as I can right from turn 1 where, at least in my mind, I'm trying to create an opportunity to snowball the game. Like, in my mind, if I take actions X, Y, and Z, and then a favorable event happens, then I just win the game on the spot. And then towards the end of the game, my mental modality switches to not lose because I'm like, okay, I'm this close to winning the game. I just need to not screw it up. And I find myself playing a lot more conservatively towards the end, which oftentimes leads to, especially on digital, right? Like with physical, you have to be cognitively aware of the game ending, checking to see if there's any cities left on the board. But in digital, because you don't have to, I feel like I play a little bit lazier. I don't think about that. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll get rid of this city to, protect this land from a ravage. And then it's just like, haha, you win.
Wait, the game is over.
Oh, golly. I was not thinking about that at all.
Yeah. Do you record most of your games and just publish the best ones, or do you start up Spirit Island and say, okay, this is going to be the one I publish?
I definitely am cognitively aware when I'm recording. One of the great things, and coming back to like being a little bit lazy and not paying too close attention, after a long day of work, I get into my chair, I recline back, I kick my feet up, and I'm just like laying on my back. And especially with the Handelabra app, you can do everything with just your mouse. You don't need to do any keyboard inputs. With TTS, you have to, there's all kinds of keyboard inputs. And especially now that Nature's Incarnate is in the process of being uploaded, or at least they've already previewed Spirits and they've already done some Twitch streams. So like we know it's like right around the corner. It makes it so easy after a long day of work. You eat a little food, you get some drinks in you, you're kicking back, you're just clicking around, you're just so relaxed, you're having such a great time, you're just in a vibe, you're in a mood, and your win rate just plummets. But, you're feeling, at the end of the day, board games are about having fun, right? And, I'm just having a good time. But maybe I'll be playing a matchup and I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of a cool matchup. And the first thing I have to do is ask myself, like, have I already uploaded this? After a couple years, you can't remember what you have done and have not done. There was recently I uploaded a game of River versus France. And I realized that was like the fourth time I've done that solo matchup over the years.
Maybe you just like it.
It's such a free matchup, honestly. Like, it feels good because it's so easy. Just everything that France does is just perfectly countered by River. So it's just like a really easy one. I can just, just do whatever. It's just very comfortable, very easy for me to talk over. But I've also put that same matchup up like 4 times.
Well, each time it plays out a little different.
I mean, fair, but I choose to believe that people would love to dig through the archives and, explore everything I've got to offer and not just click on the most recent. they're like, oh, sweet, like 10 games of River. They're all the same. We've been...
That's so goofy. Do you ever look back and see how much you've improved over the years? Not as a player, but as a video creator.
No, I don't. And I don't really know what metrics I would use to measure that either. Because, from a technical perspective, I still have no technology. I just got this recording program that just came by default with my computer. I've got a microphone that my wife gave to me, a very, very cheap webcam, and through this program that comes by default on my computer, when I hit record, it starts up the microphone, starts up the webcam, and it just puts it all together into one file by itself. And so I have absolutely no technical know-how in how to make these things better.
So what you're telling me is there's no excuse. Get out there and make videos, people.
I mean, okay, so there actually is a lot more content creators now than there was a couple years ago when I started, and I think that's a very good thing. Red Revenge is the biggest YouTuber out there. I think he's up to like 7K or something. Like, he's absolutely crushing it, and he has very high level. If we want to talk about going to an expert, the dude's literally got like, what's he on, like a 12-game win streak on 6-6 right now? Like, he's at just like the highest difficulty that you can imagine, and you're watching his videos and he's like, yeah, this game is kind of easy. You're just like, all right, you're operating on such a level that I can't even comprehend. I mean, so he's got that going, and he's the biggest one out there right now, and he's doing great. Another guy that's like a super high level expert, Tepid Goose, he's been doing a whole 6-6 series as well. Those videos are really cool. He's talking through all these different ideas and lines. His is on the board, and so the UI is a little bit different. It's just kind of like a camera over the top. But that one's super cool too. There are a lot of content creators out there right now, and if you just can't get enough Spirit Island content and you just hate the sound of my voice, you are in luck. Also, if you hate the sound of my voice and you made it this far in this show, then you probably won't hear that recommendation. But yeah, I mean, there's content creators of just tons and tons of them out there. And I've seen some guys that posted a lot and then stopped after a while. Of course, the game doesn't really get patch notes, so any old video is still viable. Even if they make a lot of mistakes, seeing those mistakes and recognizing the mistakes and finding ways to improve is also a viable way to watch and improve your own gameplay, or at least just be entertained, give yourself a sense of superiority. I mean, the Spirit Island content landscape is very rich and diverse right now, and it's a great time to be a fan of the game.
Is there a space that you have found is missing and want it to be filled? Right now, you've listed a lot of gameplay options, especially very high-level gameplay options. Is there any content that you say, wow, I wish this existed, but it just doesn't?
I would say so, and I guess kind of sticking with the theme that I'm making the stuff that I want is that over the past couple weeks, I've started to do just these thoughts, these ideas, these open-ended, is this good design? Is this bad design? Is this why does this thing work this way? And just kind of talking through ideas and not doing gameplay is exactly that space. I would love to have more people engage in that, especially if it's someone that I can engage in a friendly rivalry with.
Yeah.
And just being like, well, do you hear so-and-so said this? And we can start some trash talk and drama and, start one gang versus the other gang. And
that space is actually something that I have felt is a little missing too, to the point where I agree with you. If it doesn't exist, maybe you should be the one to do it. I've wanted to talk about...
that's exactly what you're doing with your channel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do gameplay unless if you want to do an ASMR, talk through yes, the jungles have been revealed and an explorer travels from the wetlands.
Nope, that's not for me.
This podcast format is great because, you could be driving, I've listened to your show when I'm just on a road trip and, you can just start, listening and thinking about ideas. You did that bingo game where cards are partially described. You have to figure out the rest of it. Those kinds of games. I don't know. I think that's kind of fun. And I think that non-core gameplay, not just hey, here, you're either winning games or you're bad, or I don't know. I don't want to put any words in someone else's mouth, but anything that's not comparing yourself against someone else and just doing something joyful, I think is a great space, great content to be produced. And so I do think your show is very good for the community.
That makes me so happy to hear. Thank you for saying that. One of the things that I've been thinking about and that I want to talk about perhaps on the show is why not reclaim? And this is a dumb question, but the reason that I want to reclaim is because my best cards are in my discard, and I want them in my hand to play them again. What challenges did the designer have to go through to make it so that you don't reclaim every turn? That's a real question. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things in place to stop you from doing it, and presence placement is not the only one.
Yes. I am on the record saying that I think reclaim loops is the most boring way to play a spirit.
I agree.
And so I love having any reason whatsoever to not reclaim. One of my very favorite spirits is Lightning Swift Strike, which goes against everything that we're...
Did you know that you start the game by reclaiming?
Right? But I think maybe one of the reasons why I like that spirit so much is because I'm desperately searching for a reason to not reclaim. And when you do your standard top, play nothing, bottom, play 3 cards, reclaim loop forever kind of opening, there is a certain amount of power that you just don't have access to, that 5th and 6th card play, which then also gives you access to the 2nd and 3rd building destruction from your innate. That's a lot of power. 50% more card plays and then triple the strength of your innate is a huge delta of strength. And that's so alluring and so exciting to me that finding a reason, hey, why, I can just not reclaim here, right? It has to be almost like a 2-turn setup. You have to kind of do a low-powered turn right now in order to play an extra strong turn next turn to compensate for the fact that you failed to reclaim or chose not to reclaim on a previous turn. That is very exciting to me. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I like that spirit so much. But yeah, not reclaiming is sweet. Disregarding my favorite spirits play pattern.
That's so interesting. I love the spirit as well, and I'm always trying to not reclaim. And I hadn't thought about it from the perspective of, I don't like reclaim loops, I like the spirit, what's wrong? And maybe it's just that obstinance, how do I not reclaim?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting perspective. Do you like any of the aspects? I've kind of fallen in love with sparking.
That's actually my least favorite one, just because it does have such a core play pattern difference. I think the thing that I like so much about base lightning is that top tier innate. Being able to blow up 3 cities as an innate is just insanely strong. And the moment that you reach that power level, because of the nature of it, you could just reclaim, just do it again. You just, you become like the strongest spirit in the game. You have the most card plays in the game of any spirit, and one of the absolute strongest innates. Taking away that massive, epic, powerful innate makes me sad. And replacing it with Raging Storm, what's the serpent card? It's Gift of Primordial Deeps.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what you do, right? You throw away like the coolest, epic, big, innate power and replace it with Gift of Primordial Deeps. I'm like, I don't know. Just, it doesn't have that like epic, awesome thing for me.
Yeah. And like, I completely understand wanting that, but I feel like I never get to do that epic, awesome thing. And being able to just play 6 cards is pretty epic and awesome already. And sparking lets me do that, where I get to target myself, get a card, target myself and get another card, and then reclaim and get another card. And now I'm like strong. I can put 6 cards into play. That's really exciting to me.
That's true. I mean, it is really exciting to do the thing, so why not just do the thing?
Yeah. There's not much more nuance to it. I'm opposed
to the spirit. Yeah. I'm not opposed to that spirit, by the way. Like, when the aspect comes out, I'm 100% gonna put up a ton of videos for the sparking aspect. It's just that, like, given the choice between others and sparking, maybe I just haven't found my inner spark yet. Boo, boo.
Okay. So
off the pod.
We've mentioned Nature Incarnate coming up on digital. Are you excited?
Oh, very.
Are you going to be making a lot of gameplay videos for Nature Incarnate on your channel?
Yes, yeah. It's kind of like chasing the new, where as soon as a new piece of content comes out, you just like hit it hard. There's always going to be a certain level of excitement of people want to see the new thing. Just having, I think the UI, having everything on a single screen with the Candelabra version is just a lot cleaner and easier to read as opposed to TTS. Even when you try and you try and zoom out, there's just too many just boards. I mean, you literally have 3 different boards to keep track of, right? You have your Spirit board, the Island board, and the Invader board. And, it's really hard to keep all 3 of them at the same time on TTS, which is previously the only way to do Nature Incarnate content. The Candelabra version does a great job putting all that on the screen at the same time. Like the Invader board will just be that ticker bar across the bottom. It just kind of gives you a couple numbers and a couple like little details that you need without all like that big art that takes up a lot of volume. Because it is so much cleaner and easier to read, I'm definitely, as soon as I get the opportunity, I'm going to be just hitting that Nature Incarnate content super hard.
That's awesome. Do you think that your content is going to be geared towards new players trying to learn all these new spirits, or experienced players just looking for some fun gameplay?
I do think that because as I do gameplay, I try and explain why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm also just personally, in general, very opposed to being too niche in what you talk about. Like, how do I say this? It's like, oh, because I'm specifically playing this board, specifically on this spirit, specifically with this adversary, specifically because of this, Now I do this line. I prefer to always keep my commentary more on the lines of, these are the general heuristics, these are my general priorities, and these are my general rules of thumb for winning the game. Because I figure, like, if you can just keep 3 things in your mind, you're probably good. Like, you can make I think there's almost like a logarithmic curve to learning a game, where the first bits of information that you get versus like your skill level is just like a vertical line. It doesn't take very much info to get dramatically better. And then from there, there's diminishing returns. And so by playing at a higher level, but then just talking in more general terms, I try to kind of bridge that gap, right? If you're like an expert level player and you're watching my videos, you might see things that I'm doing that I'm not explicitly talking about, but hopefully we can have like a meeting of the minds and there's an understanding. But if you're not an expert level player, it's just gonna be pie in the sky type of stuff. Like, who cares? And then also, I try and move quickly. I do get bored when, if you're taking like 15 minutes to hem and haw out a single turn, it's like, all right, man, like, that was the end of my breakfast, so I guess I'm done without watching a single turn of Spirit Island played. Yeah. That turns me off, and so I try not to do that either. Explain a couple core rules. Hey, if you keep in mind X, Y, and Z, you'll increase your win rate, and then just go.
Just go. Zoom, zoom.
Zoom, zoom.
What difficulty do you play your videos at?
I do just level 6 adversaries. Okay, so every time that I've done double adversaries, I've like forgotten a rule, or there was one video that I did where it was Sweden 2 and then whatever, and I spent the whole game being like, okay, well this city does 5 damage, but it doesn't because it's Sweden 2. And so I got roasted in the comments pretty good. Like, every single time that I played a defend card, I rapidly over-defended, or I just didn't play a defend card because I thought it wasn't going to be worthwhile. Like, you still take the blight anyways. And, I got roasted pretty good for that. Well deserved. But,
everyone deserves a mistake here and there, okay?
Absolutely. We're all only human. I would like to do a little bit more double adversary stuff, but, probably not like 6/6 stuff.
I've been doing 4/4s myself. I find them to be roughly a similar challenge as a normal 6, while being, like, unique.
Yeah, and by the time you get to level 4 with every adversary, you've got, like, the core identity of the adversary demonstrated. And so you do feel like you're playing against these adversaries. It's not like, oh, we're playing this, like, if you're against, like, if you have, like, anything plus France 1, it's just like, oh, okay, cool, here's an extra explorer, sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
cool.
Nothing meaningful. The 4/4s make it so that you feel like you're playing against both of the adversaries. You get all of their big, notable chunks of text, but the real challenge at 5 and 6 are left behind. It's a pleasant experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules that just, like, really hurt you. It's at those, like the level 6 rule for every adversary is a real kick in the teeth.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely is like, there's a sharp tail up where that, like the margin in difficulty from a level 5 to a level 6 just feels like it's a bigger delta than from the 4s to the 5s or any other tier.
Yeah, and it could be just like this compounding effect. You keep adding stuff and eventually it's gonna feel like the skill difference between where you're at and where the game is presenting it is going to be overwhelming. And it could just be that this is the level that is too much for any given person to handle randomly. Or it's just harder. I don't have a good answer for you, but reading them, they look harder.
What level do you typically play at?
I normally just do single level 6 adversary.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll do something goofy, like we'll play like a level 4 game with an extra board.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like just various iterations of like that difficulty 10. And I think that's cool that you can have several different ways of getting to that same difficulty level.
Yeah.
Maybe I should explore that more. I do think I just play like a clean level 6, like no frills, no nothing. Maybe I should take to heart, that double 4s, the extra boards.
They're like
I'm gonna keep that in
a
mind.
little harder than a normal 6, but like not too much harder. Some of the matchups are actually a little challenging, but you can do them.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess also it's very spirit dependent too. Some spirits just have like super free matchups, and some spirits like just like base lightning versus like Russia 3. You're just like, oh, I have to play Raging Storm a lot now.
This is my favorite card. That's a callback.
Right?
Yeah, I guess that's like why we stick around that difficulty, is because we play usually random spirits. And so on random boards, like we don't preordain anything. And so we say, what do we want to play against? And we shuffle up the adversaries and we put one on the table and we say, I guess this one. Or we say, let's do a 4/4 and we pull out 2. And which spirits do you want to play? Let's randomize it. And we just get what we get. And so we don't
I
have
love
these
that.
really powerful synergies and combos and this spirit beats that adversary. We just go like, oh, we know how to play this. Let's do it.
Yeah. I do, with certain people, okay, first off, I want to say I do love that, where my group's classic one is just, you just take out a bag of dice and you just throw them on the table, and that just is your game setup. You know, you've got like, what board? What spirit? And, you just kind of wind up with the game. with one of my friends in particular, though, we always find ourselves playing against Prussia, because we'll play a game, and then he'll look at his phone, and he'll be like, well, I got like
30 minutes.
30 minutes before I've got to go. All right, let's send it. Let's get
There's always time for Prussia.
Yeah, exactly. Like let's just get the fastest game that we can go, chop. And it usually ends, like, right before we win, it usually ends with him calling his wife and being like, babe, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I just got held up a little bit. I'm just about to leave.
You can't be saying that. What if she listens to this, man?
Oh no. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
You threw him under the bus.
You don't know which friend, do you? His name's, Steve.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love how quick Prussia can feel. Like, the pace of the game is faster through the system, but it feels faster through its gameplay because, like, it's putting so much pressure to go fast that you just play fast. Like, go.
Yeah. What are you doing thinking through this turn? We ain't got time for that, man.
Yeah, you ever play a Prussia Blitz game?
All right. Oh my gosh.
It's
Like, turn 3, you're like, wow, that's the bottom of the invader deck.
It's
I guess
really
that was
fast.
that.
Yeah. So, to wrap this up, I wanted to talk about some of your favorite things. And we can spend some time on it if you want, but what's your favorite major power?
My favorite major power. I love all of the unloved cards. So, a lot of the cards that wind up at the bottom of people's tier lists are also the ones that are most near and dear to my heart. So, I don't know, like, Angry Bears or like Pillar of Living Flame are two that I really like. I do like fire animal spirits and fire animal cards. And just a chunk of damage. No utility, no thinking, just give it a good old slapping. Those tend to fall lower whenever anyone makes a tier list because they don't provide utility, but I just like the big boom aspect of them.
That's fun. Do you have a favorite minor power?
I would say... I'm not so sure. Just because you interact with the minor powers so much more, you have so many more impressions of every individual card that... there's not as many like special moments. Like, I guess with Pillar of Living Flame, hitting that threshold and just doing like 5 fear, 10 damage in a single land and just flipping a land from like, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to survive, to just clean solved in one swift action. Very, very thematic, very exciting to me. I don't get those kind of evoked emotions from any minor power.
There's one minor power that comes to my mind that, like, consistently creates these memorable moments as Sky Stretches, where you go, we just need to find Sky Stretches and play that major power fast, and then we can win, otherwise we're dead on the water. And Sky Stretches, turns a power from slow to fast, and it's really exciting as a result.
Yeah, have you ever done, like, the whole, like, prayer draft where you're like, oh man, alright, we're gonna lose, unless if we draft exactly Sky Stretches. Just like, everyone, go for a minor power right now.
Okay, we're looking for Gift of Twin Days. We're looking for exactly this one card. Find it.
You know what's crazy with Sky Stretches is I've been playing this game for a long time, and did you know that this card can make a power go from fast to slow?
I did know, yeah, but it doesn't do that.
It
not
doesn't.
In practice.
It doesn't, but there's one little line of text that says vice versa. And I didn't know that until like 2 days ago. Someone said like, oh, hey, someone was talking about like Trickster has the ability to make his innate go from fast to slow, and so does Sky Stretches. I never would have known. Crazy.
What I like about the card the most is that while only one card gets changed from slow to fast or vice versa, is that you get +3 range targeting coastal for everything, and that can just completely shift how you play a spirit. If you target Volcano with this card, and he's like, well, I was an inland volcano, but now I'm actually a coastal volcano. It's really funny.
Super interesting stuff. Also, because he already gets a +1 range boost, so now you're looking at a +4 range boost, and then that just breaks the game open.
Yeah, it's super goofy. I love sort of things like that. Do you have a favorite adversary?
Easily Scotland.
Scotland. I've been hearing that a lot lately.
Yeah, it's a very popular one because it doesn't have a lot of rules overhead. Basically, levels 1 through 5, the loss condition, just like the levels 1 through 5 and the loss condition is just like, I'm OP on the coast. I'm just better at everything on the coast, and so it's really easy for you to just be like, generic inlands, OP coast, we can just play a game. And then, obviously the level 6 changed it up, and that's, it's probably the most dramatic increase in difficulty from a level 5 to a level 6, just because it completely changes the identity of the whole adversary. Scotland level 6 is completely defined by its level 6 rule, almost more so than all the coastal stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But the reason why people love Scotland so much and why I like it so much is that escalation, where one person just gets absolutely rolled over and everyone else is having a good old time. And the reason why I like it is because it just forces more interaction. You can, with every single other adversary, it is an even distribution of effects. And so it can almost lead to a lot of like a Euro style.
Heads down, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing. Oh, you need my help? I can head over there. Eventually.
Every once in a while, someone's like, hey man, want 2 free energy? And you're like, cool bro, thanks. And then you're just kind of doing your own thing, which, I mean, there is nothing wrong with that if you're into that vibe. I mean, those parallel solo Euros are very popular, but that's just not how I want to play Spirit Island. So having an adversary that just has a built-in thing, like you have to go help your teammates, you have to go support them. They are intrinsically supporting you by reducing the amount of invaders that are on your board just by their sheer existence, right? By you not taking a town on your board, providing you support. I think that just creates a really cool dynamic. It creates like a team situation. Like with Frisbee, we have you might have handlers, you might have cutters, you might have you might be playing the rail, you might be playing the popper, things like that. But you can, in Scotland, being like, okay, we want you to be designated as the tank, and meaning that we want you to absorb all of these escalations, and we can craft our game plan around you being the tank. And I think that is way cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't ever thought of Scotland that way. I actually really like that perspective, and I will approach going into my next Scotland game with that in mind. It's perhaps something I hadn't thought about because the way that my group plays so frequently is you spread out as much as possible, as quickly as possible, and so we're already doing that. A big frustration point for me with Scotland is their level 6, and because I just tend to play level 6, I am so annoyed with this inward growth. Stop!
Right? Yeah, it creates this whole separate sideshow. That's definitely if you wanted to do a double adversary below and not do a 6/6, Scotland is definitely one of those ones that's great to include because I think it was very clearly obviously designed for it to be a coastal based adversary, and by eliminating that Scotland 6 rule, you really get to evoke that much more in a way that playing a Scotland 6 can really suppress that identity. And so but of course, if you want to increase the difficulty rate, you just pair that up with something else. You could pair that up with France, and then every single coastal build also triggers triangle trade. That creates a whole lot of fun.
I haven't done that as a 4/4 yet. That sounds pretty goofy. Triangle trade.
Yeah, you should give it a try. That seems pretty slick. Or even as a 5/5, because France 5 is basically no text.
True. I hate to say it, but it's true. Okay. Is there anything that you want to ask me or bring up before we end the show?
So what is your ideal Spirit Island matchup? Do you have like a perfect comfort pairing? Like, oh, this spirit against this adversary just makes me smile in the heart. And maybe it's, maybe you're having a rough day and it's like, it's such a super easy free matchup. It gives you like the illusion of just like absolute elite skill, or maybe just the way that the adversary interacts with the spirit, just to have this interesting little push and pull because of their individual dynamics. Do you have something that really makes you smile?
Wow, that is such a good question. That is something that if I wasn't put on the spot for, I could sit and think about for hours to days, weeks, and years. Genuinely, this is so thoughtful. Off the top of my head, I would say playing Wildfire into Sweden is so fun for me. I feel like I am just dominating them, and through like such stupid, dumb systems. And every once in a while, they sneak in and like do something really strong, and you go, "That's fine. I'll Blight Cascade and clean up anyways." Even though you're doing something so strong, I will snap back and do something even more powerful. I really like that matchup, as I want to just win a game of Spirit Island.
Nice. Yeah, and Sweden punches really hard at the start of the game, but so does Wildfire.
So does Wildfire.
Yeah, there's no like building up, kind of just like setting things up here. Like turn one, it is happening.
Yeah, I love that. And Sweden is so susceptible to, well, sweeping underneath them, you know? You clear out their explorers and they have no way to come back from that. And Wildfire just clears out explorers really well from turn one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fun
That's
game.
awesome.
Thank you for asking that, Ryan. Is there anywhere for people to be able to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube. I don't really engage with any other social media platforms, but if you want, you can just look me up. My name on YouTube is just Ryan Lackie. I don't think there's anyone else out there with the same name as me. I have a Frisbee instead of anything Spirit Island related as my profile picture, but I assure you it's all Spirit Island content.
Awesome. Thank you for coming onto the show and having this spirited discussion with me. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time. It was a great conversation, and I love listening to your show.
Well, that concluded our discussion. I had a wonderful time making it, and I hope you had a good time listening. Follow the podcast and join the Discord to continue the conversation. Alongside this podcast, we recorded a gameplay video on Ryan's channel where we played River and Ember-Eyed Behemoth against a 4-4 adversary. Go check that out and let us know what you think. Bye.